Hey guys, what's going on? It's Panther Dragon. Today we're going to be watching Necrit's How Old Are Champions According to Lore in this video. And basically, I have never watched this video before, but I thought it'd be really funny if we basically watched it, and then before Necrit said the champion on how old they were, we would guess it. I thought this would be funny. I also have a link in the description below for you guys to check out Necrit's video. But basically, yeah, that's going to be it. I don't know the ages of champions in the lore. Let's be honest here, I've only watched Arcane. I didn't read and dig into the lore nor care. I only played the game. I only know the movie cinematics and stuff like that, and I guess upon their appearance, of course, right? But other than that, I haven't read any stories, not too much, only videos out there. With that being said, let's see how dumb I really am.
If there is something that confuses the player base more than Rek'Sai's gender, it is the age of all the champions we know and love. League of Legends is clinging to the classic anime age abyss. It's a hungry place full of tentacles and Zags.
This is gonna get messy.
Where no matter how old women look like, they are all 14. Or a millennia. That's just the same. Recently, there was a post on Reddit talking about the age of League of Legends champions. That post was taken down for reasons unknown to me. Let's hope the mod overlords had a good reason for it. Anyway, I thought I could give my own view on this, given the fact that the lore of these champions is my home. So, let's get right into it. I'll cover every single champion in League. And because that's a lot of characters, let's go through them quickly. We all know I'm not going to be quick. I'm just trying to be. Let's get on it. Going with alphabetical order, the first one is Aatrox. We know that the Darkin are the fallen Shuriman ascended, and we know that Shurima was going strong thousands of years ago. The Darkin fought against Icathians and they lived through Azir's betrayal. This would make Aatrox about 5,000 years old. Varus became an ascended a little bit later, so
22.
Varus would be 4,500 years old. And even though they aren't Darkin, the same would apply to Nasus and Renekton. All of them are ascended, so all of them came from the same era. In the Bloodline story, Nasus confirmed that he was there when Setaka fell in the battle for Icathia. And he was there when Xerath betrayed Azir. He and Renekton sealed him in a tomb. And because the two were amongst the first, they would likely be older than the other Ascended by a couple hundred years. Ahri isn't a human, so don't even think she would be 21 years old.
800.
She's a Vastaya, and the Vastaya are usually way older than they look. It took Ahri years before she learned how to use magic. Then it took her even more time to meet the first humans. And then she spent more years running around and absorbing lives. She then ran away to a cave to think about what she has done, which took her even more years, as described in her lore. And finally, years later, she emerged, determined not to spontaneously absorb life essences. So overall, we might be looking at a 30 to 45 years old Vastayan. Akali entered her Kinko training when she was 14. We know that—
What? Wait, what?
At a 30 to 45 years old Vastayan. Akali entered her Kinko training when she was 14. We know that 5 years passed after Zed marched onto the Kinko monastery. This was confirmed in Jin's color story. So adding together all the events, Akali should be about 22 years old.
That was my first guess.
Alistar is pretty weird and his story wasn't brought back in line. So my guess would be around 200 years old. If the legends of Amumu are true, then he lived even before Azir's dynasty. This would make him more than 8,000 years old, and one of the first possible Shuriman emperors. Anivia, Ornn and Volibear are all Titanic spirits from Freljord.
7,000.
They stood in Freljord pretty much before any other sentient being. This would make them more than 10,000 years old, if not more.
That was kind of close.
Just remember that Ornn was the firstborn, so he is the oldest. Annie is just a child, so she's about 9 years old. Maybe 10 if you count that one present year. Ashe was 15 when she lost her mother,
22,
and was forced to be the new leader
queen
of their people. Her story mentions that the colossal fortress of her ancestors was already abandoned. This means that her story happens after the Watchers were already gone. So not a lot of time has passed since. Now she would be about 21 years old. Aurelion Sol is likely one of the Twilight Dragons that came with the beginning of times, as described in the new Darkin story. So take that for what it is. Azir and Xerath were boys either during the events of Icathia or shortly before
6,000.
The Darkin story
4,000.
says that the Great Darkin War happened right after Azir died. So Icathia had to be already over. So Azir and Xerath would now be younger than the first Sunborn, which would be about 3 or 2,000 years. Bard is just one massive mystery. He would be younger than Aurelian Sol, but he is still possible as old as some of the planets. Blitzcrank was constructed when Victor was about 19 years old. He's
but 1 year old.
About 6 years passed since Blitzcrank's creation, which would finally make Victor about 25.
Victor's 25. I don't know how old he is in the arcane. I don't know. Maybe he's 21.
5 years old, and Jace about 24 years old. Brand had a mention in a recent story, so I'll be forced to skip him for now.
Oh.
The only reference we have for Braum is that he's at least 2 generations old. Enough time for his legend to be passed around. So he would be in his late 40s at least.
Oh.
Caitlyn's story says that she got her rifle when she was 21 years.
Okay, if he said 21, got the rifle, Arcane was, I don't know, 2 or 4 years? Jace is 24, so she's either a year older or a year younger. Let's go 23.
Old. And then it says that a few years passed before she got into her
24.
We also know that a few years passed since she became a sheriff. So Caitlyn would be about 28.
What? She looks so much younger than so when Arcane happened, she was 21. So 7 years what? Wait. If she's 28, did we just go through Jace? Wait. And Victor, right? We went through Jace and Victor. I swear to God we did. I can't find them anymore. Well, that means when she got her rifle, Jace would have been 17. That's weird.
8 years old.
Oh, that's in the flashback where she's getting the shoot training ground. Maybe I'm stupid.
Now, Camille is fairly easy to guess. She has a grandniece. That grandniece was born when Camille was about 50 years old. Of course, her body was already frozen in time by Hextech by then. And if that grandniece was a growing teenager now, Camille would be about 60 to 70 years old. Which is not that old for a character, to be honest. Cassiopeia is the youngest daughter of the Dooku Tau family,
24.
which makes her about 26 years old.
That's close.
That means that Katarina has to be older,
28.
So she is about 27 years old at the very least. Cho'Gath and all the other creatures are either very old or very young. Void spawns grow very quickly and they last very long. So while someone like Cho'Gath can be thousands of years old, Kog'Maw might only be 9 years old. But we don't have any real reference, so I might just have to skip all the Voidborn. Sadly, Yordles fall into the same category. Yordles act as some kind of fairies that try not to get murdered by mortals.
Heimerdinger.
They are really
Arcane.
old, but we shouldn't look at their appearance to guess their age. They use special magic to make themselves look like small humans. So while Corki looks really old, he might be about 80 years old, which for a Yordle isn't a lot. Darius's life got documented pretty well in the comic Blood of Noxus.
34.
He lived his young life with his lover 19 years ago, which would make our present Darius 45. Draven is his younger brother, but 32. They grew up together, so Draven would be 43. Despite her looks, Diana is definitely
70.
younger than Leona, since Leona was already the chosen of the sun while Diana was still discovering the Lunari. But keep in mind that Leona still wasn't ancient. She is still aging like a normal human. So if Leona is in her late 20s, Diana would be in her early 20s. Dr. Mundo is a bit wonky when it comes to his age. All we know is that he was already massive even as a child. So 32? Looking at the monster we have now, Mundo might actually be only about 17 or 18 years old. According to Echo's Q&A,
I got this. He's 19.
He is 16 years old.
What? Don't tell me Jinx is gonna be 16 too. Jinx is 20. This is, you know what? This video was in 3 years ago. There's no way Jinx is 16. I swear to God, he's 19.
Which line
From after Arc, I don't.
ends up with his color story Lullaby. Elise is a member of a house Kythera, a house that was
30.
part of the Immortal Bastion centuries ago. So Elise has to be at least 400 years old. Evelyn is weird. The story states that she started eons ago,
18.
but an eon is a scientific term for a billion of years. So that doesn't really make sense. So she was there on Runeterra pretty much since its beginning. She was a wisp of magic floating around the planet, but she started shaping herself as a seducing human long after that, during the Rune Wars. So Evelyn is still thousands upon thousands years old, even if she was just a stream of magic. Ezreal is just a young guy.
No, I was gonna guess. I was gonna guess 18. I don't know why.
About a year younger than Lux. Simple as that, he is 20 and Lux is 21. Fiddlesticks has
1,000.
nothing to mention his age. So we really don't know. He would be close to Evelyn though. That is, if he is a demon. Fiora's father
I don't know this. 20, not 30.
planned to marry
31.
her to a branch of House Groundguard. So Fiora had to be at least 18 years old. Since then, the story says that, well, years passed. So Fiora would be 24 years old, if not less. Fizz's story only states that he lived with ocean beings far older than those that walked on land. But when he got to the surface, people were already there. So Fizz has to be about 600 years old. Galio was sculpted by Durand at the beginning.
Doran or Durand. Durand. Fifth. He's probably like 10 years old.
Of Demacia. And Demacia is a pretty young nation. It was founded by Orlon during the Rune Wars.
200.
So Galio should be around 200 years old and Poppy about 230 years old. Possibly less. It can't be more because it wouldn't line up with Noxus, which we will talk about later. Gangplank killed Miss Fortune's mother when she was about 14 years old. If Gangplank was 40 when that happened, he would now be 50 and Miss Fortune would be 24. Garen is older than Lux.
Garen is older than Lux, kind of looks like Darius, therefore he's 39, 37.
And we already said that Lux is about 21 years old. There are roughly 3 years between them, so Garen would be 24 or 25. Gnar is more than 1,000 years old. It pretty much says so in his lore. Gragas has no information on his age, but we know that the Shard of True Ice preserves him to some degree. So he would be in his late 50s, despite him being preserved in his 40s. Next up we have Graves and Twisted Fate. Twisted
28,
Fate was
32,
about 19 and
32.
Graves was 20 when they joined their forces in cheating everybody. This part of their story is depicted in their Bilgewater skins. They spent 2 years doing their swindles, which bumps them up to 22-ish. After that, Graves got imprisoned and he easily spent up to 10 years locked up. The story describes how it was enough time to break the minds of anyone else. So now both of them would be nearing their 30s. However, it took Graves a couple more years to find Twisted Fate and start the events of the Burning Tides. And the gap between the Burning Tides and the present days are 6 months. This was confirmed in Miss Fortune's comic. So in the present days, Graves and Twisted Fate would be both about 35 years old.
What did I say? I said 32, right? I was close, I think.
In order to guess the accurate time of Hecarim, we need to look towards the Shadow Isles and beyond. We know that Hecarim and Callista came from a kingdom that caused the ruination. We know that the ruination resurrected Mordekaiser. We know that Mordekaiser built the Immortal Bastion, and we know that LeBlanc mentions the foundation of that place. So it will be LeBlanc that reveals all we need. The first connection to LeBlanc we have are those that came with the Black Rose and with Mordekaiser. Black Rose existed centuries before Demacia or Noxus, and Mordekaiser built Immortal Bastion right after the end of the Darkin War. And that war began after Azir died. So it has to be far more than 200 years, since that's the foundation of Demacia, and less than 2,000 years. If the Great Darkin War lasted about 100 years, then LeBlanc would be about 1800 years old. Since Mordekaiser was born countless centuries ago and it was LeBlanc who betrayed him,
200.
Mordekaiser himself has to be about 1700 years old. Then there were about 3 centuries of nothingness before the Ruination destroyed the Blessed Isles and revealed Mordekaiser's skull. This means that Hecarim, Kalista, Thresh and the Ruined King are about 1300 or 1400 years old. Maokai would be about 500 years older than that, maybe even more. Heimerdinger
Shh. I watched Arcane. 300.
just like Corki is a Yordle, so the estimated age would be about 120, and for Ziggs about 60. Illaoi should be about the
Gangplank's wife, right? I don't remember. Gangplank's from 70.
same age as Gangplank. She was his lover, so she would be in her 50s. Irelia was 14 when she...
Yeah, this is where I heard she was 14. I read this to confirm something that she was older. She is definitely 21.
She fought at the Placidium, and she was there when the Great Stand at Navori happened. And that was 9 years before the present days, which means that the current Irelia is 23 years old. You can do whatever you want with that information. Ivern was born during the age of the Iceborn in Freljord. Those were the times when the 3 sisters visited Ornn. So Ivern would be as old as Lysandra, which is about 900 years. Jenna is a mysterious elemental wind spirit. She was brought into this world with the pleas of Runeterra sailors. So she likely came to form when Piltover and Bilgewater first started being active. This would be about 500 years ago.
That was close.
But if she behaves similar to someone like Evelyn, she might be thousands of years old in reality. Only back then she didn't quite look the way she does now. Jarvan is about 2 years older than Garen.
I just watched this. I just saw this. 28 to 29. Wait, 29.
Since they trained together as young soldiers. So he's about 27. Jax is an Icathian rebel, so he was there when the Sunborn became touched by the Void.
Sunborn, the Void. Takes a lot of skill to do weapons. 45.
And he himself got likely corrupted as well. He has to be at the very least 2000 years old. And that's crazy if you think about it. Jhin should be slightly older than Zed and Shen based on their shared story.
26.
And since 5 years passed since Zed killed their master, and it was Shen, Zed and the master who hunted down Jhin, since Akali is 22, Zed and Shen should be about 28 or 29,
26
which makes
Jhin
31. Jinx and Vi are...
If Echo is 16, she also must be 16.
About the same age, and Caitlyn is about 5 years older than Vi, so...
What? What? But Echo has a crush on Jinx. Is Arcane not canon? Wait a minute, something. Jinx is the older sister of sorry, no, Vi is the older sister of Jinx. Maybe the lore is outdated before Arcane came out.
These two should be 23 years old. Kai'Sa was...
Okay, Kai'Sa, daughter of Kassadin, 21.
Then when she accidentally woke up the sleeping remnants of the Void. That happened when Icathia was already ancient and the Void was already released upon Runeterra. So Kai'Sa should be about 30 years old, assuming the corruption of the Void would keep her younger looking. Kassadin has to be 1 generation
50,
above her,
50.
so he should be in his 50s. The current iteration of Karma, which we know as Dara, was 12 years old when she started having her visions. Years passed and she had to be about 22 when the Noxian invasion began. Add 9 years on top of that to get to the current days, and we learn that Karma might only be about 31 years old, which is surprising. Karthus was born in Noxus.
Born in Noxus. But he keeps dying and he looks old. 80. Let's go 100.
When modern Noxus was already a thing. So he should be anywhere between 200 to 100 years old.
That counts. That looked weird the way it was put, but that counts. Oh. That's my blanket. There you go.
Gale and Morgana are likely having their...
They're having their phase, their sister phase. 2000.
Stories rewritten now. So I have to skip them. Kayn was a child when the Noxian...
Let's go with sometimes you're Roust, sometimes you're Blue. He's a child. He's literally a child. Like his personality, 20.
Invasion began. If he was 12 back then, he
So
would be
close.
21 right now.
So close.
Just like the other Yordles, Kennen is about 60, which is just
I
a
can't
rough
guess that one.
Kindred are the twin essence of death.
Well,
the spiritual
infinite,
twins
right?
that screw around with everything
Infinite.
we know. They should be the same age as the firstborn titans like Ornn. So about 10,000.
Isn't Kindred literally death? The person you see before you die? So like Aurelian's soul, if he died, wouldn't he technically see Kindred? I don't know.
Years old. Glad has to be old even for a Yordle, so about 500 years. Lee Sin met Udyr when he was in his early 20s.
30,
If it took him a year
34.
to get Udyr in shape and then the Noxian invasion happened, Lee Sin would be 30, just like Udyr. Lucian and Senna should be both about 25, since not a lot of time has passed since the Shadow and Fortune story. Lulu is supposed
I don't know this. 70.
to be a young witch Yordle, so let's say 40. Malphite.
Wait, I don't. I kind of know this. I don't think I do, but I do. You know that feeling? 1,000.
Who's that? Malzahar is a prophet from the times after Icathia.
70.
So just like
Or
Kassadin,
40.
he should be nearing his 50s now. If it was Master Yi who we saw in Irelia's
34.
teaser, 9 years passed since then and he should be 29.
Okay.
Nami is one of the Marai, a Vastayan tribe that dives
20,
into the
22,
abyss to get
22.
a new peril every 100 years. The new cycle freshly began, so Nami has to be only about 16 to 18 years old. Nautilus is part of the modern Bilgewater legends,
800.
and everyone
Wait,
he
1,000.
knew is already dead, so he has to be only about 200 years old. Compared to him, Pike's story happened while Nautilus's legend already lived on, so
40?
Pike has to be only 60 years old. Nocturne, just like Evelyn, has to be in the thousands. Nidalee has nearly no
28.
real lore, so we have to skip her. Just like Nunu, he is...
Oh, no way. It's been 4 years. It's been 4 years. This is the rework, right? I thought the rework already happened. I guess he's like... The kid is like 6.
getting his rework, so we can expect changes. Olaf was mentioned in the semi-recent story Shadow
37.
and Fortune. According to that, he should be getting 45 now. Orianna was about 18 years old when she got frozen in time by her machine body. However,
I was gonna say 8, because she's a hex tech thing, right? Well, wait, is Orianna a person? She said she was frozen in time.
time went by and now she would be only few years older. So her current age should be about 22.
Has Hextech been... But Hextech's only been out for like 8-ish years. Jace, Arcane, Caitlyn, I don't know.
Atreus became Pantheon when he was only about 18 years old.
32.
Their final tests go through when the Rakoran boys become 15. However, the current iteration of Pantheon has already acted for a couple of decades. So the current Pantheon we know should be at least 60 years old. That's just because we know he became Pantheon recently. Quinn has been scouting for years.
20.
She is in her early 30s.
Zaya
Xayah and Rakan should both
18.
be about 35 years old, which is very young for their tribe. We still have no idea what Ramaz really is, but we know he is ancient. He has
1,000.
knowledge not
1,000.
even the scrolls of Shurima contain.
5,000.
So he has to be at least 3,000 years old.
At least
Rengar
counts.
should be 50, which is really young for the Kilash tribe. Yet he is veteran now. Riven was 15 when the Noxian invasion started,
25.
and that took entire 9 years. So surprisingly, Riven is about 25 years old now, which is older than expected. The exact same thing happened to Talia. She
27.
was used in the invasion when she was about 13 years old. So Talia would be 21 now, which is also a bit older. Rise was there when the Rune Wars began, so he has to be as old as Demacia at the very least. So he has to be at least 250 years old.
I kind of knew that.
Sejuani is about 32. She's a veteran, but a young leader when it comes to Freljord. Shaco might be only 10 or 15 if you count his creation. Shyvana is a very young dragon. She's been escaping her mother for years. And 27. She found Jarvan relatively early.
24.
So she's still only about 25 or 30 years old.
That doesn't count.
Despite his looks, Singed has been doing his
Arcane. In Arcane, he was looking like he was 27. Few years past, 38.
craft for a century. So he should be about 136
Wait, what?
years old.
Wait, what? What did they say? What? I'm so confused now. Give me a sec.
He's still only about 25 or 30 years old. Despite his looks, Singed has been doing his crafts for a century. So he should be about 136 years old now. He captured Yorick in his early 30s.
He captured Yorick in his early 30s? Oh my god, is Arcane canon? I don't even know anymore. But also Yorick. 30s, Vonder. 38.
And not a lot of time has passed since. So Yorick should be still only about 32. Cyan was likely there when Noxus became Noxus.
100.
He was slain and then later resurrected. If all the numbers make sense, he should be about 300 years old now. Sivir is the youngest join of Azir's bloodline while being only 23
I was gonna say 20
years old.
or 22.
Skarner and the Breckern lived long before men walked on the sands. So he has to be at least 9,000 years old. Sona is in her late 20s now. Soraka is weird, let's skip her.
50.
Swain was already getting...
I almost said 30 until I remembered he was an old man. I'm gonna say 90.
Old when his
92.
arm was cut off. And if the stand of Navori happened 9 years ago, he has to be nearly 60 now. I'll skip Syndra because she was recently mentioned in a story too. Tahm is also a demon, roughly estimating 8,000 years of existence as an essence. Talon should be only a couple years younger than Katarina, so he has to be 24. Tarek knew Garen when he was a human.
Tarek knew Garen when he was a human. Wait, what? What did he say?
Human, and he was the same.
Let's go 70.
Age. So he is 25. Teemo, just like Rumble, Tristana, and the others, are about 50. Trundle was about 25 when the trolls joined Lysandra. 30. So he has to be 35 now. Tryndamere is supposed to be 7 years older than Ashe. So he's supposed to be 30 now. But that part is not mentioned in his new story anymore. Twitch is a new mutation that is about 12 years old.
I was close.
Just like Zac, who's only about 10 now. Maybe a lot less. Urgot was a man soldier when Darkwill was executed by Swain. Since that was after Swain came back from Ionia, Urgot should be 45 now, since he spent a lot of time in Zone. Vayne is an older hunter now. 32. She started when she was 16. That's when her parents were murdered by Evelyn. Add a couple of decades to that, as the story mentions, and now she's 36.
I was close.
Veigar is also a weirdo. About 40. He's a bit younger. Vladimir should be older than Swain since he is an older member of the Black
90.
Rose. So he might actually be nearing 100 years. Wukong is described as very, very young and impatient.
80.
In his story,
No,
Wukong
70.
is about the same age as
50.
Yasuo when he was training. So while Wukong would be 15 as a human, he's about 25 because he's a Vastaya. And since we mentioned Yasuo, 25. He was about 18 when the Noxian invasion began and he was accused of murder. 9 years on top of that and a year that came from the Confessions of a Broken Blade, and suddenly Yasuo is 28. Yorick was a monk that lived while the ruination happened, which means that he's about 1300 years old. Zillion is as old as the Rune Wars, so he has to be the exact same age as Rise, which is 250.
I'm not proud of that one.
Then we have Zoe, who's not Misha. She wasn't there.
I know this. 8,000, 10,000.
During the Great Darkin War. However, we know that Zoe lived as a human while the Lunari were a normal religion. So she dates back to 1,000 years ago. Her story even says that she came back after a millennia. And the last one is Zyra.
I'm gonna get this one right. 22.
Who should be as old as someone like Maokai, which is about 1700 years. And that was the roughly estimated age of every single champion in League of Legends. Of course, there will be a bunch of you who will not agree with me. And you know what? Feel free to do so. Just if you do, make sure to reference some lore facts. Simple appearance of a champion doesn't really mean anything in a fantasy world. But that's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to like it and subscribe.
But what about Arcane? I don't even know how that... Is Arcane not lore? Wait, is Arcane lore? I am so confused. Let's see. Is Arcane canon? Oh, my brain gonna die. Echo is 16 and Jinx is 23 or 21? What's this? Oh my god. I think I got about like 4 spot on. 5 champions spot on. Oh. What? What? It says it's Google tells me it's canon. And then you look up Netcrit here. Netcrit just released a video comparing Universe and Arcane lore. It is said Arcane is not canon. It will be when it becomes super popular. Oh, they just changed so many. Oh, what's this? There's another video. Oh my god, Arcane is different. Oh my god. Oh my god, my brain hurts. Well, that was interesting. Thanks for watching.